In our news bulletin for this evening, a young man requiring urgent medical attention was taken by Medivac early yesterday morning. The Niue Legislative Assembly met for the first time this year with a few slight changes to the meeting. The Education Department's teacher aiding program has been deemed as a success with the graduation of the very first lot of students this week. Niue Fisheries received new equipment to assist with monitoring and surveillance at sea. Early yesterday morning, an emergency Medivac plane arrived to take a young male patient to receive urgent medical attention in New Zealand. In a media statement from the Ministry of Social Services, they confirmed that the patient was admitted to hospital on Saturday, the 21st of February. The medical team at the hospital carried out medical investigations and applied treatment accordingly. However, the patient was not responding to treatment as expected. On Tuesday, Acting Premier Honourable Pokotoa Sipili approved the call for an emergency medical evacuation. The patient was airlifted on a Care Flight International Air Ambulance accompanied by his mother and is now at Middlemore Hospital. Yesterday's Niue's Legislative Assembly met for the first time this year in a meeting that started with a slight change, with a vote to select a member of the Assembly to temporarily take over the Speaker's responsibility. Speaker of the House, Tongia Valupingia, stated that he was unwell and in effect actioned a section from within the Constitution, namely Section 20(7), that states if the Speaker is absent or the office is vacant, the members of the Assembly present at the meeting shall elect one of their number, not being a minister, to preside over the meeting until the Speaker is again present. Two names were nominated to take on board the responsibility, member for the village of Tuapa, Fisapihingia, and member for Hakupu, Mr. Yangimani Viviani. When the matter was put to the vote, it was a close call with 8 votes for Fisapihingia and 7 for Mr. Yangimani Viviani. Honourable Fisapihingia stepped into the Speaker role in the afternoon session, and legislative officials say this is perhaps the first time this clause has been actioned. The second reading of the Transport Amendment Bill 2015 was also discussed and passed during the meeting. There were some views from those who were opposed to the amendments, voicing concerns regarding rights of people to object to proposed incident fines, amongst other issues. Questions were raised whether there needs to be more consideration and discussion regarding some of the changes to make sure that once these become law, they are properly enforced and understood by the general public. There were also questions that were posed for the ministers to answer, and the motion presented by Young Vivian was also defeated in the House. The Niue Assembly will meet again in 2 weeks' time to conclude discussions. The Niue Education Department's teacher aiding program has been deemed a major success with the graduation of 17 teacher aides that were part of the first batch of students in February of 2014. Education Director Bertha Tonghai says that there was an initial intake of 21 students that started the correspondence distance learning studies offered by the Open Polytechnic in New Zealand. A graduation ceremony was held on Tuesday evening to acknowledge the efforts of those who were part of the 32-week course. The program leader for the Certificate in Teacher Aiding Level 4 certificate, Jane Hall, made a special trip to Niue to be part of the ceremony.
This group is the first time teacher aides have had any training in Niue. We have nearly 15,000 teacher aides who work in schools in New Zealand, and they provide additional support for the teachers, for children who have learning needs, who need some more help with learning. And our certificate, the students are placed in secondary schools and primary schools, and here they've been also in some early childhood as well. So it's giving these people who live here some skills to help the education system here in Niue.
Jane Hall says that Niue is the first in the Pacific to undertake this on island with positive results, and the quality of work from students has been impressive.
They have been really dedicated and they've completed the certificate. It's hard work doing it from distance. It takes a lot of dedication and it's basically a correspondence course, but the thing that has worked really well here, we've had the support from the Department of Education.
This particular project has had the backing and support from the highest levels of government, from Cabinet to the Niue Public Service Commission, and also funding through the New Zealand High Commission. We spoke to one of the graduates to see how this experience has had an effect on her and potential career path options that it will provide.
One main challenge was finding the time, especially when you work full-time and have family. Trying to fit in study time was a real challenge to me, but I fulfilled it. There's always a way to go around it with support from work as well as those mentors at the school. There is a need here because there are children here who do need the help. If we're able to give the support in Niue, we're able to help those children who need the help. If they give the opportunity to us in Niue, take that opportunity and follow through it. It's not a course where everyone can do it, but if it's something you would like to do, take a chance and have a look at it and look at what has come out of it, especially with the past graduates.
Director of Education Bertha Tonghai says that this new group of teacher aides will be a great addition to the base of support teachers at the local schools and will help to meet the needs of the department in areas where there is a shortage of teaching staff. The next round of students have taken up the challenge and have started with their studies this week. Niue Fisheries has received new equipment to assist with their work for monitoring and surveillance out at sea. A brief handover ceremony was held at the Fisheries Office at the wharf to accept the much-needed equipment that included marine VHF radios, underwater cameras, reflector vests and binoculars. In the past, the Fisheries Division has also received uniforms to clearly distinguish their roles and to make them easily identifiable as fisheries officers. New Zealand High Commissioner His Excellency Ross Ardern presented the equipment to DAF Director Brendan Pasisi. We caught up with a representative from the Ministry of Primary Industries today to find out more.
We've looked at supplying some MCS, so monitoring, control and surveillance equipment for both their work in the coastal fisheries, offshore fisheries, and also looking at crossing over to the maritime safety aspect of the fishery officer's role. So following on from our earlier supply of uniforms, it's about increasing the visibility of the good work that the team here do. We've got a very capable team here, so it's nice for us to be able to support them. So following on from the uniforms that have been supplied previously, looking at equipment such as binoculars, cameras, spotting scope, so they can monitor activity in the fisheries and vessels offshore, and also looking at some vests there, make them more visible so people are more aware of the good work that they are already doing in the community. Hopefully this equipment will just enable them to and facilitate them being able to work a little bit more effectively, give them the tools to be able to complete some more surveillance activity and keep an eye on activity in the fisheries, and also just making sure they've got the tools to be able to perform those roles. As far as we see it, this is the start of ongoing support. We've developed a very good relationship with the team here, and so we're very keen to make sure that continues.
This is part of assistance from the Ministry of Primary Industries as provisions within a signed Memorandum of Understanding. And that concludes our news bulletin for this evening. Do join us again for our next news bulletin next week and have an enjoyable weekend ahead.